you could work in the most functional place. You could own the business and still have a toxic attachment to the role that you have, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of like define what that is. It's all about the role and how we kind of see our way in it. And also, I'm just going to fully admit this. Like I'm going to use some therapy speak. I recognize that I can have like anxious attachment to things to start, relationships, hobby, like whatever. I'm an anxious attacher.
So can I maybe surprise you here?
Yeah.
I have anxious attachment to my job.
No, Erin, you do.
You are like the Barbara Walters. Like I am not crying yet.
I'm like, really? I'm like,
but when you describe it that
turn
way,
the tables on you.
Yeah, I do. I've been going through this. I was up when I had my big event, a month ago. I was down after it with thoughts in my head. I'm back up because I've had a couple of really great opportunities land in my lap. And then I'll be back down if I lose one or if something goes like, so the way you describe it, actually, I am in a very non-toxic, relatively speaking, career and space, right? I run my own business, first of all, and it's a largely joy-filled type work versus like but I have a toxic attachment. Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
This is episode like 300 and something. We came back post 300. And like we have new listeners, so maybe we should be like, this is Erin. I'm the one that's a speaker now, former corporate exec person, and you are
Nicole, your sidekick on the virtual couch. Economist, lady with flair and big hair, lover of vintage tracksuits, which is hilarious because I am actually, like, I did not plan this. Hair is big today, and I'm wearing my vintage Puma tracksuit. See?
And you've got something on that's not black. What's going on in the middle?
Okay, so, and this is going to tie really well into the episode today. We're talking about all things toxic attachment, and I'm actually sick. I'm sick because I think someone is toxically attached to their job that's not me. Came in the office and got everybody sick. And so I just want to demonstrate to you that I think I'm actually turning German. Like, this is a Warmflasche. Oh, legitimately, it has its own sweater. This is like my dog. I keep it close to me. And it is the most amazing thing. And I filled it.
It looks like a turtleneck. It looks like a turtleneck that would fit a 3-year-old toddler.
Yes, it is like a turtleneck for a water bottle. I'm not even kidding. This thing's amazing. It's way better than an electric heating pad. And it is like a lifesaver by Germans. But I love these old ways. Like, it actually is making me feel better. But I am sick.
I'm sorry you're sick.
Yeah, so if I sound like crap, it's okay. But all right, new listeners, love me anyway because I'm here for you. And it's not because I'm toxically attached. It's because this is a light in my life on this miserable day. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So we're talking about toxic attachment. What stirred this up for you?
Oh God. I wonder how much I'm able to say about that. I currently have been for the last 3+ years in a job that I both love and both recognize that is probably the most toxic place I've ever worked. Now, I say that openly because things are changing. As we know, things have happened.
I disagree. I would put the former one in the pole position, but what do I know? I don't work.
Okay, that might be true. I think Nicole is a slightly different person, so maybe the way I'm interacting with the toxicity.
That's important.
But
the variables have changed. I.e. you.
Yeah, and I'm coming at this episode like both being like thoughtful and like reflective, and also like really honest about where how I've encountered some of this in my life and continue to encounter like toxic job attachment. Because we talk a lot about toxic workplaces, and that seems to be a pretty popular topic in the universe. But I of course wanted to bring in like the personal element. Like we have some responsibility, right? Some ownership here and some control. But look, anybody just like look up, electricity regulation in the state of Connecticut, and like you will enjoy a series of articles about all of the things going on in the place where I work, and you'd be literally amazed at what can happen in the work world, and yet people persevere. And I have to say, I am surrounded by really amazing colleagues who have persevered a lot and a lot of change, and I'm really proud of everybody, particularly my team. But these are one of those moments where we all have to question, like, what are we doing? What are our boundaries? Like, how did we get here? And in particular, like leaders, because it's very easy in these moments to take on like that martyr role. Like I'm so toxically attached to my job and my identity to it, and like being the martyr, and owning everything that happens to me and around me. It's like a moment where we can step back, and I think it's a good time. It's the end of the year. It's the beginning of the year. And so, I want to start with some self-awareness. I think like maybe some thought questions. Cause I was thinking, I was like, all right, Erin, like if I asked people, if your job had a mood, right? I've got this mood calendar on my desk. Actually, it's like today I'm feeling quixotic, right? Which is questioning, or anxious. I'd be like, what? And I love it. I change it all the time. And I'm like, see mood calendar, like on desk. But like, if your job had a mood, right? What would it be? Like, would it be like stable? Would it be exciting? Would it be ADHD? Would it be anxious? Like that's a solid question, right? Like, what is the environment, and like, what is your relationship? What is your relationship to it? And like, I know a lot of people, they say things like, oh, I got the Sunday scaries, or like the Monday miseries, and my stomach drops and I walk into work, and I'm just like, that's you. Like, how do you feel that way? Like maybe there's some toxic, toxic attachment going on. And so like, that's kind of what I want to scope out today. And I want to talk with you about, because you're someone who's really helped me not just identify these trends, but also get past them, right? In some ways. But like, I still do some of this stuff. And also now that I have a big team, I can also reflect on how I think others are doing it. So, really it's like, hey, let's talk about when like your job stops being just like your employment. And it's not even your identity, right? It's even more than your identity, because we've gone through the topic too. It's literally your like prison guard, right? Like it's got you, bound up. And like, we don't want anybody working in 2026 in a place where they feel like they need like a safety warning and like a safety vet and like a hard hat. I mean, unless you're doing unsafe activities with Auntie Nicole with their hard hats, which I do all the time.
So let me ask you this. I'm curious, because I feel like you are a great, obviously, crash test dummy. You have been for 6 years. And, when you talk about toxic workplaces, like you said, we've talked about that before.
Or toxic job.
Probably 9 out of the 10 people listening, maybe 8, are like, yeah, I'm in one of those, right? Yeah. And it's sort of like, okay, so what are my alternatives? Leave. Well, if 8 out of 10 are in a toxic workplace, then I can't. Change, my behavior, which is obviously part of it, but can't be all of it. It's tough, right? And so
yeah,
I'm curious, like, just to make this more real, if you think, because I think you've been in places that have some sort of toxicity, and I think you've been a victim, and I think you've been,
martyr,
a player, a martyr in the game.
Yeah, responsible.
What do you think are like the top 2 or 3 things that are different about you today that sort of makes it less affect you? Sorry. Like, I'm curious. I know you had like some ideas about where to take this, but that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first it's like it's not just like that. It's not just the toxic environment. It's literally like your attachment, your attachment to the role is toxic. Like, you could work in the most functional place. You could own the business and still have a toxic attachment to the role that
Mm.
you have, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's important to kind of like define what that is. And like some of the things I was thinking about were, and I have done all of this. Like, remember when I ran a foundation? Like, you feel personally responsible for things you can't control. Oh my God. Also, every person who's probably like a woman or a mom also feels that way. Like, you can have toxic attachment to being a mom or a girlfriend, right? Like, it's all about the role and how we kind of see our way in it. And like, I used to feel like my mood would be impacted like New England weather, like every 5 minutes change, like no matter what was going on, like I would, my mood would be up or down based on like what was,
Literally a 1-to-1 correlation.
yeah, this email up, this email down, right? And also, I'm just gonna fully admit this, like I'm gonna use some therapy speak. I recognize that I can have like anxious attachment to things to start relationships, hobby, like whatever. I'm an anxious attacher.
So
Which
can
means,
I
yeah,
maybe surprise you here?
yeah.
I have anxious attachment to my job.
No, Erin, you do.
You are like the Barbara Walters. Like, I am not crying yet,
I'm like, really? I'm like,
but when you describe
can
it
I
that
just turn the
way,
tables on you?
yeah,
Mhm.
I do. I do. I've been going through this. I
Ups and
was
downs.
up when I had my big event, a month ago. I was down after it with thoughts in my head. I'm back up because I've had a couple of really great opportunities land in my lap. And
Yep.
then I'll be back down if I lose one or if something goes like, so the way you describe it, actually, I am in a very non-toxic, relatively speaking,
Right.
career and space, right? I run my own business, first of all. So, and it's a largely joy-filled type work
Yes.
versus I go in but I have a toxic attachment. I think you're right. Like, I have too much of a 1-to-1 correlation, not just at the macro level, but very much at the micro level.
And I think a lot of us do, right? And this is different. This is why we're thinking about it differently. And I think I started talking about this topic like 4 months ago because I kind of got a little tired of like the putting everything on the environment or like the other person or the leadership or the management, like all the things we can't control, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, my management is messed up. There's lawsuits going on. There's changes in leadership. Like, and I just felt like, why am I addicted to chaos, right? Like, why is it making me feel a, a certain, like, why is it making me a certain way? I think it's also a little bit probably different for entrepreneurs than it is for people on a team or leaders, right? So when you're working in like, let's call it an organism, like an office organism, like you also might find yourself like feeling simultaneously like indispensable, right? But also totally responsible for the outcomes, right? So this is my favorite thing in the world. You have none of the authority or accountability, but you have all the responsibility and liability and risk, or so you think, or so you feel, or so
Yeah.
you've cultivated. Now, for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's just a reality. That is a reality of their life. But I think some of us sort of maybe aspire to that or feel like that makes us important or proof it's helps us get proof fireproof whatever. None of that is true, right? Like none of that
Yeah.
is true.
And I would say,
None of that is true.
actually,
Dangerous.
on the entrepreneurial side, it's a spectrum, but we have the same dynamic. Even though it can feel like, oh, you control your own destiny, as hard as you work or as much, creativity or whatever you put into it, an investment you get out. The reality is there are factors way outside of our control. I mean, there are budget cuts at our client that wanted to hire you in and then last minute couldn't because they have to cut, consulting or outside services. There are, decision makers on certain committees for keynote speaking. And you could have 5 of the 6 want you, but the grand poobah, his cousin, sister's best friend's neighbor, they think is a better so
These are real things.
Yeah,
These are real things. And then the problem is from there is that like, we self-immolate, like we light ourselves on fire, right? The great like pan-Arab word. We self-immolate and then, no one comes bringing the guitar to sing Kumbaya or like put the flames out or have a marshmallow roasting party. And we're just like, why isn't it, why isn't this burning, man? Why isn't everybody here like at the fire celebrating with me? right? It can be very isolating, right? So it's sort of self-reinforcing. And that, I think, that isolationism, that feeling of like intense feeling like everything is weighing on you. And again, like I'm not debasing the feelings, like these are real feelings. And sometimes it's true. Like the situation has been cultivated. So in fact, you are the person who is like kind of weirdly solely responsible for this stuff. But that is also a sign of something, of toxicity. And I think we get...
Wait, can I pause on that for a second?
Mm-hmm.
I want to pause on something you said.
Yes.
Which is really important. You know, when these things happen and we light ourselves on fire, and you said like there's no fire, hot firemen coming to put it out or whatever.
Give me the
and we feel isolated. I think if I reflect on being in the corporate world myself for 22 years and going through that, and the entrepreneurial world, I'll tell you what I think is different and why it's important to pause on this, because there's something you can do about it. In my old world, I had absolute bouts of anxiety and issues, especially when I was running the company. Like it felt like every other week we had some major mishap. We ran a very complicated healthcare payments business. Some accounts got messed up, or maybe they got compromised by bad actors, or like really anxiety ridden events, or, just stupid crap like nasty grams from executives above. And, that toxic attachment would happen, right? Like I remember a time, the one I remember the most is I remember going to, I think it was Ella's field day, and I was a volunteer, and I was like standing out in a field with all of these kids having this, joyous day. And I stood there, and all I could think about was the email I had just read, on my phone before I got there, from a customer where we had like screwed something up and they were so pissed. So there's that. And I will tell you, in the corporate world, what would I do? I would absolutely stir in my thoughts. Maybe it's not even mindset. It was more that I'd never had the time, because I was back-to-back meetings, running around with the kids, like you're to pause and actually talk to somebody. The difference I see in the entrepreneurial world, like I was spinning a couple of weeks ago. I was really anxious around some stories in my head and some thoughts and some whatever. Mm-hmm. Some real, probably most of them perceived.
Yeah.
But the first thing I did was like, okay, I'm going to talk to, and it's not a coach or a therapist. It's like, well, one was like my vocal coach because I trust her. One was like, my first gut instinct was to let it out and talk to people, so that and part of it was I knew I was going to work myself through it, just saying it out loud, but sometimes you got to have somebody like literally there.
Yeah.
And I like, for a lot of our listeners, sorry to like sabotage, but I think it's a really important point.
No, this is great.
You don't have to be alone, and it doesn't have to be a therapist. It doesn't have to even be a formal coach. It can be a colleague, a friend, whatever. As soon as you feel those things going, like one thing to get rid of that attachment, because a lot of that attachment is probably sucky songs in your head, like not the real like shit, or you're not responsible, is to talk to somebody. And, I will say that is the great thing about entrepreneurial, because the head games, especially when you're a keynote speaker, like I was talking to somebody about this the other day, your product is you. Like your ego takes a freaking hit. Like it is a one-to-one correlation. Like if you're selling a product and somebody, like a competitor, beats you out, like that sucks because you want to win. Right. But it's not, I mean, you might say, oh, maybe I could have sold better, but you're not selling yourself. And
it is not entirely.
And what I do, like, it is hard not to take it personally, because every day I'm interviewing and selling myself for my next speaking gig. And so it's just so important to not have that attachment and to have those outlets to talk through those things.
Right. Because I'm going to say like a couple things, like one on the entrepreneur side, but also the workplace side, like a couple things that I think may engender more conversation and hopefully some thought with listeners, but it's like, we often confuse like responsibility with absorption. Like we own something and like externally we do it, but is it like, does it have to be part of my like inner essence? Right. And that is a really hard boundary to learn. And I also understand that a lot of workplaces, teams, like, I don't care what people say. They encourage this like over engagement, over functioning, over over ownership. Like we call it a meritocracy, right? Like it often comes down to like difficult team dynamics or like a manager that maybe isn't a great manager. And so all the work goes to the people that do the work, right? And like the people who don't do the work are kind of like pushed aside because they're not as useful or whatever. Like it comes down to these dynamics that get created, absorbed, made to feel personal, sometimes made to feel as a result of your success, even like you're such a good worker, you're so good at your job, but like, what's that reward? And then it's like, then the dysfunction gets totally normalized. And then anytime you have boundaries, it looks like you're not pulling your weight. Right? This is why people are so afraid to take time off. This is why I'm freaking sick. People are afraid to take time off. They're afraid to be like, I can't do it today. Or like, I'm afraid to delegate, right? It's control. It's all of that stuff. And then people are like, well, you got to have more self-care. And it's like, that's fine. But like we often work and live in places that devours self-care. Like self-care is made to feel like something like cute, like face masks or like, taking a pause or like a mental health day and like all good, but it's all a little bit symbolic. It's all a little bit performative.
Episodic
right?
too.
Yeah, episodic. People, these places eat it, right? They eat self-care. Like they devour it. And I'm a boss. I'm a boss of like 20 people. Like I am saying this as someone who has does struggle with this kind of like self-imposed toxicity. And also at times can reinforce it in my own team. And what I really have started to encourage is people to push back on me. Like, I'm not the end all be all. I'm not the know it all. And also to talk more openly about their needs when they feel comfortable, to think about like holistically, what are we trying to do and like manage ourselves and our times accordingly, because we've got a really tough year coming up and it's not entirely our fault. It's a function of some of the things that have happened, like at the agency and with changes in leadership. And it's like nothing we're ever going to see before. And people are going to be called upon to do harder things. And, I've decided that like my goal is to like not dig into this toxic attachment to like trying to be the perfect worker or the perfect person, but to create an environment where people like know what a metric of success is and everyone is sort of treated equally and, is allowed to individually take the space they need too, because we also look at jobs as puzzle pieces. Like you have this piece and you have this piece and you have this piece and you have this piece. And then we're like, we all come together and make this great team. And that doesn't always allow for people to like deal with their own needs. Like they have family issues, they have mental health, they have physical health, they, family vacations, they have things they want to do that are joyous, right? They want to go to their kids' Christmas concert. Like we have to create an environment where we're all sort of bundling and pulling it together so no one feels entirely this level of like responsibility. And, some of this toxicity is on us, but as leaders, I think we have a special responsibility to recognize if we are sort of enabling people to have toxic attachment to their job.
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me, they get noticed more than me, they have better luck than me, they're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? Like, I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which by the way is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things. Let me ask you this, because yes, and we are inherently selfish, and that can help propel our leadership. Let me ask you this. It's your question that I'd love you to think about. When you have started doing this, like giving permission to your team, for example, to push back on you and encouraging the things that you think are antidotes to this toxic attachment thing, do you feel any relief personally, or do you have any insights, or like how does it impact you directly without like sounding noble, like no bullshit? Does it help you in any way? Do you find?
Yeah. Humor has helped a lot. So like there's a couple, I think there's a couple things that I think we should talk through them maybe one by one of like kind of the ways to counteract this. But one of the things that I had to get really uncomfortable with, that I was hugely uncomfortable with, is not owning everything and like letting shit fail, right? Letting stuff fail, but not getting freaked out about it. Like I used to be like, I saw that happening. I saw it coming. I'm the process expert. Like we could have headed this off. We could have done something different. And really sometimes allowing the systems or the people to stumble, not to a catastrophic event, but to the point where there's like learning and engagement is super important, right? Because let's be fair, when you're a leader with a toxic attachment to your job, let's forget everybody else around you. You control everything. You take away people's ability, own their own work, right? To delegate, to do things well, to learn. Right?
It's demotivating. It doesn't allow them grow. Yeah,
I'll do it. That was the story of my life for 30 years. I'll do it. Right now, I also use a lot of humor. Like every year, I come up with a funny saying that has something to do with like the overarching goal. And this year's goal, quite honestly, and has two pieces to it. It's do less with less. Right. Number one, that's for me to remember that I don't own everything. We are going to get punched in the face this year with shit we don't even know that's happening, right? Okay. Ready, Freddy. Team, that means like you can bitch all day about how we don't have the this and we don't have the that and we need more people and we deserve this and this is the way it used to be. But the truth is like the people, the resources, the knowledge is what we have now. The expectations are here. So like we have got to do the things that make our lives easier and more efficient. Whatever that is, fewer keystrokes, standard operating procedures, like working in teams. Like think about all the things you can do to actually make your job easier and more collaborative, and then do those things, right? Do less, not do worse, not have a worse outcome, not even just efficiency, but like
how is this different than efficiency? Like
it's not just efficiency. It's not simply just
give me an example.
Like for example, customer service. We have people that come to us cyclically asking the same freaking question, thousands of people. We have a standard answer and they copy and paste it, send it off. And I was like, that is a waste of keystrokes. That is like, and I tallied it up. It was like half of a full-time employee or like a full-time employee like doing this rote work. And I was like, why don't we create a page on the website that has the answers to some of our really basic questions and that we could use as a first order. Like, please go to this section and see these and written in a fifth grade level, literally fifth grade level, broken out into like the most basic things. Like it's not more It's not more difficult. It's not more effort. It's just simply a redirection of resources that allow people to help themselves and reduce the number of keystrokes we have. One other example of this was we are getting a lot of calls over the years, like I'm talking like 8,000 calls a year, people asking for phone numbers. And we would give them phone numbers. And I was like, I just put that somewhere.
Right, because somebody didn't want to put it there because
And
they
also,
didn't want people to call, but then you gave the number out anyway.
because the website, no, but also the website's a mess and it always comes down to technology. And, in the world of AI, I've made a really strong point at work over the last 6 months, which is AI is helpful and it's also challenging. But one of the things it does is if you invest in the unsexy technology, like getting information on your website, AI uses it and can often direct people appropriately, especially if it's in lay language, right? And we have always been giving people really technical information and like people just don't want that. So now I'm like, I don't know the website. I don't know much. I don't know what's happening with it overall. I don't care. Old Nicole would have been like, I gotta fix this whole fucking thing. And I'm like, no, let's just put something up. We know where it is, where AI and humans can look at it and they can get their first order information. And then let's change the pathway for how people engage with us. So they have to see this stuff first. They have to at least give it an effort and spend a moment to think about what it is they really want from us. We did the same, I was saying, with the wrong numbers. We put up a phone message that just said, like, look, you can find this information here, or this isn't our area of jurisdiction, and our calls dropped by like 50%. Like 50%.
Do
And
less
it's not
with
that we
less.
don't want to touch base with people. Do less with less. But now we have time to actually spend on the customer complaints that are really, really interesting. I mean, I had a series of things this week that were doozies. And if I had not had the moment to work with my staff to dig in to say what's really happening here, right? Because this is a controversial situation. It's difficult in my world. Customer service is difficult in public service, right? You're talking about 3 different parties. You're talking about the utilities, the customers, us, the regulatory body, talking about laws. It's quasi-judicial. This is not just like, oh, I broke this piece on my washer and I need to order a new thing. Like, it is far beyond that. And, our ability to like get information out of people and help them understand what their issues are and to communicate that and to work with the utilities to make sure that they're meeting requirements and rules. It is complicated and you need a lot of brain matter. And when that is coming at you like 20,000 times a year, it's hard to do. You have to make space for that. How do you do that? You get rid of the stuff that seems like easy and rote. But people don't want to get rid of easy and rote sometimes because they're just like, look at what I'm doing, answering all these questions. I'm doing it. I'm busy. I'm taking all these complaints. I'm copying and pasting. I'm sending things out. Hooray. And I'm like, I don't care about that part of your role anymore. Like, stop being the person that sends out all the, you sent out 400 emails to people last month. And it's like, okay, you took all the copy and paste complaints. That's great. You know what would be better? If you had just said, hey, go to this website. Okay, next, now I can do something more complicated. And make time to learn, because that's the other piece of this. Is like people have to be asked to learn. Jobs are evolving. If we're so toxically attached to what we're doing and who we are and how we do it, there's often no space for change. It's very threatening. Change is threatening. Learning is threatening. New people are threatening, right? So it's not just like I'm toxically attached to being the best of the bunch. It can also be I'm toxically attached to just what I'm doing right now, and I don't want to do anything different, right? Resistance to change. It's all a form of toxic engagement. There's so many versions of it. I have been all of these people, literally all of these people, right?
Yeah.
And, I think there's some signs of it too, right? Like sometimes you're like calm at work, but then you explode, or you go home and you explode, or like you're trying to manage everybody's emotions. You're trying to control information. If you're a high performer, you could see yourself maybe resenting colleagues that you're always helping, right? Whereas in some ways, but at the same time, you're constantly talking about it. Like rather than being like, hey, boss, I'm constantly helping this person. What can we do to help them grow? Or did you know, right? There's this feeling of like owning being like the most important in the room, the central figure, the central hub. I see that often because I do expect people and colleagues to train and teach each other, but you don't want to get into a place where one person is sort of controlling that environment and feels resentful, or another person feels like they're the subject of that person, or like that's their boss, even though it's really their peer. Like these are really challenging things that can lead to toxicity that as managers we have to be aware of, but also as employees we have to be aware of, because we can start creating these environments that just create unhealthy roles. Because that's really what this is like, is the role healthy for you? Is the role healthy within the greater organism in which you're working, right? And
let me ask you this: do you think
you don't want to sow distrust? Yeah.
So let's talk about the opposite. And I know you want to, like, you have other strategies, but I'm curious. Like, the opposite of it is toxic detachment, or just detachment to your work.
Yeah.
Can people be successful doing that? Or like, because that also has, obviously, if you're totally detached, then the passion, the care, the why, all those things are gone. Like or is there just like a word for the happy medium, and how do we get there?
Yeah, I mean, because I think this is obviously a spectrum. I love the spectrum. There's no like you're toxic, you're not toxic. Like your role is toxic, and there's a million kind of ways to think about this, right? And basically, I'm more talking about the person that feels like they're the super shock absorber for an institution. They feel like everything is on them, right? And they feel often like a martyr, and they don't necessarily know how to get out of that place, which is what you're talking about. But a lot of people can't stand martyrs, right? Like, okay, we venerate them in the Catholic Church, but they're like long dead and they lost their head. Like, we don't like working with martyrs. We hate that. We hate that, right? Because it feels like narcissistic, and it feels like uncomfortable, and it feels like you have to walk on eggshells, right? But the martyrs feel like they're really important to how things function. So I think as a person who is self-aware, I'm doing this, like, let's say you are the person in this role and the manager in this role, like you kind of have different things you have to do. I think one of the things an employee is first that asking yourself, like, all the things that we talked about, like, am I feeling this kind of attachment to my work? Like, do I have this up and down, this sort of weather pattern relationship with myself, my people and colleagues? Like, am I talking to upper management, or am I blaming upper management? I see this all the time. Like, everyone doesn't understand. They don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, have you talked to them? Like, they're not omniscient. Like, they're not prescient. Like, they don't know everything, right? They have their own like land of problems. Like, have you talked to management about what you're seeing and feeling? And have you thought of a potential solution? Like, if you're gossiping about how work is not happening or how bad it feels, like, you're probably part of the problem. Like, let's just fair, right? Let's be fair. So I think there's like that, what I call like the ownership filter, right? Like, what is my role? And did I create this for myself? Or is this actually what I'm supposed to be doing in the organization? And if you can't answer that, like, you need to have a conversation with someone. Like, here's what I'm doing. Is this actually what I'm supposed to be doing? Or is this something that I like massively created this thing for myself for one reason or another, because I emotionally need it, because I saw that there was like a huge gap? Like, was it supposed to be short term and now it's just ongoing, right? And again, not a blame game, but it's like, if you can't look at why you feel almost, toxically attached or anxiously attached to your role, like, it's really hard to get past it. So it's first like sitting down like you did with me on the virtual couch and being like, so Nicole, like, why are things going poorly for you? Like, let's have that hard conversation, right? Have it with yourself, have it with somebody else. Like, you did this for me 7 years ago, which was like, outwardly, you're quite successful and seem happy and seem like you have it all. But yet, I sense that isn't true. And like, then everything exploded, and like, you were right. Right? But it's like, how did I get here? Like, what happened? Right? And why am I doing it? And what does it make me feel? And, what is going on here? I think a lot of people some people who are in this place where they have this intense attachment to their role. And I say this personally because I used to think this was a marker of success, and now I'm sure it is that like, not everything is a crisis. Not everything that's urgent or is a priority is a crisis. And you are not necessarily the crisis manager. Unless your job is crisis manager, you are not crisis manager. Like, the world is not going to fall apart. People are not necessarily going to die because of you. Now, when I was a humanitarian aid worker, I literally felt like people were going to die if I didn't do my job. And I found myself driving to work at 7 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. every morning, literally driving with my knees and BlackBerry texting, like, all the way to work every single day, because there were people in Yemen who were like under fire, and there were people in Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And I was like, I got to make sure the things happen, and the grants and the paperwork and the this and that. And then I almost died in a car accident, and I was like in a very near miss. And I was like,
maybe this is
no one would miss me. Like, literally, they would put me in 1 second. And I know we all say this all the time, but stop and think about how you're acting in your role. Like, the things that you do to reinforce your importance.
Yeah. And I think just knowing, and not just you, I'm not infallible, right? But going through it with you at an extreme level and on record for the last 6 years, 7 years, whatever it's been, I think it's important for people to think about, is that attachment and that maybe even neurotic need to be a martyr, to be a savior, to do, to everything, is it trying to compensate for other areas where you lack confidence, where you lack identity? I mean, that's, I think, one thing.
I think it's also a Gen X woman thing. It's
a Gen X woman thing, and it's not
too.
And it's not just in the workplace; it's at home too. I mean, one of the things that I even will shoot you little notes, like when you have company and stuff. Like, I'm always like, remember, like, just, you don't have to make it perfect. You don't have to, you don't own every minute of their day. Create a vibe, right? Like, and I think part of that is just I think you're right. I think us, especially Gen X-ish, maybe even older millennial women, it is
women of a certain age.
It is a compensation,
yes,
for a lack of confidence in other aspects, and that attachment you hope will make up for and make you feel like you are worthy. And the reality is, for everybody listening, like, you're already worthy. And quite frankly, the tough love is coming, this putting on my old CEO hat. Even if you can't get to that place and understand that it's a compensation, I will also say it is also not flattering.
I totally agree. And the more I think about what an anxious person I am, and how, for example, we were just talking about crises. I used to think that being needed and being the clarifying, gratifying aspect of crises was my identity. And then, there's one more after that and one more after that. And then nobody remembers, and it doesn't matter because you're always the person doing the thing. And then you're burnt out, and then someone catches you for 1 minute, not at your best, and then you're out, right?
Yeah.
What does that do for you? I think people who are anxious in other places in their life, relationships, home life, whatever, it's all the things, right? We all know it. Raise your hand if you're an anxious person. You're afraid of rejection. Your vulnerability is on your sleeve, and sometimes that's terrifying, right? You strive sometimes for perfectionism, right? Because it's a form of control. What are we seeking? We are seeking safety. We're not seeking love even. We're not seeking affirmation. We're seeking safety.
And what I will tell you is, when I was in that, executive role, and I was running the company and had sort of that bird's eye view and vantage point, those people that I would put in the category, again, a spectrum, but high on the toxic attachment spectrum, I would do two things, because we're all a little bit selfish. I would absolutely lean on them in those times of crisis, and I would be so grateful they would get that shit done.
Yeah.
Number two, most important.
Agree.
They were also not the person that would ever be at the top of my list for promotion.
Nope. I know.
Because I knew that it was nearly impossible for them to be in that role of toxic attachment and always there and always taking, and I'm thinking of a couple people in particular, and be a good leader because of the things you mentioned at the beginning. So, my tough love side of this. Like you can reflect and you can do the work like we talked about. And will also tell you that the thing that you're hoping will give you the good feels, but also will give you the good promotion, success. It ain't it. It ain't it. Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews, and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. Or of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too.
I think that this concept of safety is something that really people can get some data on in their own lives. Like, am I doing these things? Am I creating this chaos for myself because I'm seeking safety, but maybe creating other things for, other outcomes? And like, so, there's that ownership filter, there's that urgency kind of situation where you have to detox from it. There's the do less with less, as we talked about, right? It's like, can't be the glue for everything. Like sometimes systems have to show their pain. And the truth is that what comes out of that sometimes is an opportunity to not necessarily manage a crisis. You're not letting things get to crisis level, but you're saying, oh, there might be a new way to do work. There might be a new way to do this. There might be a way to improve how we do things than just doing the same thing over and over again, where everybody is feeling like the weight of all of the roles that they're already doing. Like, what this comes down to is like the opportunity to create change so that you can navigate all of the chaos that's surrounding you, right? Like it's making yourself open to change and bringing out your best skills and like the things that really do make you like special and dedicated and to be seen, but like in an environment where it's appreciated, not just utilized, right? You don't want to just be utilized. Like being utilized is no fun. Like being utilized sucks. Like I get utilized in 2 marriages. Like I don't want to be utilized, right? I want to be engaged. I want to be exciting. I want to be part of what's going on. And then I think also sometimes it's about intent, right? And this can be really hard to do. I used to say all the time, this is like the delegation thing. I used to say all the time, like, okay, I'll just do it. I'll do it, and then I'll show you how it's done. And rather than saying that now, I'm like, okay, here's the piece that I can do here. Here's where I think this needs like a manager, right? Thank you for engaging me, but here's what I need you to do, right? Give it a try. I'll review it. Or what do you think, right? It's just, instead of just being like, I'm going to take it off your plate, I'll do it.
Which is mostly you thinking I'm just smarter, better than figure out. It's mostly you thinking I'm smarter, better than them anyway. It's it's lazy. It's not a martyr. It's not a martyr. It's lazy.
But it's also like, I'm going to do this every single time. I still make this mistake sometimes when I'm under stress, where there's too much going on. Not everybody is trainable. Not all staff are equally engaged, but like you can figure out over time that balance of when you can be like, look, like, here's what I can do and here's what I need from you. Like that's a clear boundary, right? Like that's not martyrdom. That's not being lazy. That's not, stepping back to let things fall apart. That is literally being someone who is like clear on who they are and wants others to be clear and productive in how they engage with this whole jigsaw puzzle that is like a workplace environment or an industry, right? It's less individual. It's less about like just surviving, and it's more about like thinking about where things are going and evolving and treating your colleagues, whether they're lateral or whether they're leadership or whether they're subordinates, with like a true measure of humanity. Like, lead by example. Like, if you're toxically attached to your role, that's going to have a negative effect on those around you. And not everybody's going to be as emotionally mature or as mature in the workforce as you are, right?
And guess who
Right?
else
And
does it?
then, yeah, go ahead.
There's like a delay because we've got like this storm going on. So
Yes.
like I'm like on my cell phone stuff. But well, and what I would say too is, as a boss, you don't want people working for you, a bunch of people that are toxically attached, because you're also a human and you take a cue from them, and you never want to feel like, oh, they're working so much harder than me. So don't underestimate. You think your
Not
boss
competition.
wants you to go, go, go and appreciates go, go, go. They're also a human, and they're part of them especially if they're a woman, is probably saying, well, if they go at 95, I have to go at 95. And I don't really have the ability to go at 95.
I used to be, and like, I recognize I work in, I'm a state employee, I'm a civil servant. And that I think some people have some feelings about what that means in terms of like life balance and things like that. And the truth is like, it does have a culture of balance. So that is to a degree helpful. However, I work in a very intense, very academically minded, quasi-judicial court where things happen and emergencies happen. And like, it is a very hard time, as I mentioned, if you like Google it, it's a very hard time. It is not standard operating procedure, right? But everyone like freaking out and competing and sort of trying to swim to the top or whatever, like, it's not going to make anything happen better, easier, or different. What's going to make things happen, what's going to get us through the next year on our team is communication, right? Is trying to do our jobs differently by integrating, coming up with new ways to do things, making recommendations to leadership about how things are actually happening at the level, like deciding not to do some stuff, right? It's about having some ownership, but not in the way that doesn't embrace change.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a really good way to also, so cliche, but start the year. This will come out sort of in January, I think. It's always great to reinvent yourself a little bit and reinvent your attachment.
Yes. And can I just throw out for listeners, as we're all making New Year's resolutions and shit, which we never do. I mean, maybe we will. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes we do funny things. And we yet do something funny for the new year. I've got some things brewing. But I think just some thought questions as you roll into the new year and you think about change in your role. Like, ask yourself some questions. Sit down with a glass of wine, ask your friends some questions, your colleagues, whatever. Like, who benefits from you having no boundaries? That's a simple question. Like, think about that, right? And that could be in your life, in your work. Like, what happens if you stop being like the person who fixes everything for 1 week, right? In whatever role you have, right? What happens if you delegate something that you feel a lot of ownership about, right? Right? What does an honest conversation with your leadership look like about your role? And like, is your job extremely difficult? Is it taxing? Is it stymieing you? Or is it your emotional relationship to the job that feels that way? Really break that down for yourself. I think ultimately the question of this episode is like, is it actually hard? Or are your feelings about it that it feels like it's hard and you have some role in making a difference?
Here's my experiment. I'm gonna see what happens if you don't freaking cook dinner for a whole week.
See what happens. Somebody might come up with something. It's amazing.
Oh, babe. The dinner. No, I love it. I think this is so good. Before we close out, can you? we love hearing the Nicole stories, and we used to sort of front load them, but I'm putting you on the spot. Can we end with a funny? Can you maybe tell the story about your Christmas tree and almost not having your Christmas tree minutes after I got home? That's such I think it's a Nicole classic, and especially for longtime listeners, like part of the reason I tune in, let's be honest, are the crazy Nicole stories.
Yes, and of course it is Christmas season, so there must be some holiday fun. So I'm just gonna put it out there that I had some visitors in town, and like, Erin, thank you very much, because having people in your house for 10 days when you're working and you're me is like a big thing. And you were like, just create a vibe. And I was like, Christmas vibe, we got this. So one of the things I was like, let's go buy the most expensive Christmas tree in Connecticut, like, which we did. And like and of course this is a cultural experience, right? Because these folks are not used to the whole American Christmas experience. So we go to Candy Cane Hill and we go to like Jones's Farm, we cut down, we find this tree, like we go there, and like we're not having like deep arguments about why do Americans have so many different types of trees, and like why is there no place to pee, and like how do we get this thing out of here, and why are these saws so dull, and why are these families have dogs with, you know, coats on and things like that. And, you know, so there was a whole yet it was fun, right? Like, why are people doing this? Like, why don't they just buy a tree at the gas station? Like, there's a lot of conversation like up to getting the tree. And then I wanted to introduce people to concepts like tailgating, like, you know, drinking at the car after like the tree. And then it came down, the first issue was tying the tree to the car. Like, said guests did not feel like tying a tree to a car was appropriately safe. Like, it did not meet current German design standards, was considered unacceptable. Even though there's like an entire farm of people who are like tree binding, like Griswold family Christmas, like everybody's driving out of theirs with trees.
Like one car every minute's heading out of that place with a tree on top of it.
Yeah, with an expensive tree on top. And the whole concept also of like one price fits all, like Charlie Brown tree versus big tree, like that's like that was a whole discussion, right? So first of all, like there was a whole discussion about how we were not appropriately prepared to put this tree on the car. And also, like, it's an insomnia because it could scratch your car. Erin, my Toyota doesn't have a front end, if you recall. And like
Toyota that is from what year again? 2009 or whatever it is.
It is 2011. I am 247 miles away, 200,000 miles, mind you. And last year during a snowstorm, I scraped off the snow using a metal tip shovel. So like it left some pattern. Like, I'm not so concerned about, you know, about all of that. So we get the tree home, like we even stop for a cheeseburger, like we're doing the American thing. Like, we get the tree on the car. There's a lot of discussion about this. It doesn't fly off the handle. Everyone's got their road sodas on a concept I taught people. And we get home and then the conversation is like, oh, let's go inside. Let's have a oyster. Let's have a beer. Let's have a drink. Let's have dinner first, and we'll go get the tree after. Like, oh no. I was like, no, we can't. No, like we should take it in now. Oh no, so
because you live for those that
hanging out. Let's see what's happening.
Sorry, there's such a delay.
I live in a great neighborhood.
There you go.
I live in a great neighborhood. I live in a safe. Yeah, urban. Now, my neighborhood is known to be a little bit excitable, but I live on a beautiful historic street where people are expected to decorate their homes, and people come see the historic homes all decorated. So like, you know, lights galore. I did all the shit. I put up the wreaths and everything. I was like, Christmas tree, piece de response. So I see my neighbor out there. I'm like, Joe, I will give you a bottle of wine if you just sit with this tree for like, keep an eye on it for like 20 minutes. Just do me a favor. And my guests are like, that's insane. That's insane. Like, it's fine. You don't need to do that. Literally, within 2 minutes, I hear outside, get the hell away from that. Like, some dude had seen the Christmas tree, rolled up, circled back, whips out a freaking knife, and wiping at the twine.
Well, because Christmas trees are worth like a new pair of AirPods, basically. I mean, these days, like you're 100 plus.
$120, and I did the work. I cut the tree down, dragged it out. Like, yeah, $120 for the Christmas experience. And this dude tried to be stealing that tree, and my 75-year-old neighbor was like, "We're gonna freaking kill it!" Like, get away from it. I mean, the guy, he literally like rolls down the window, like like ready for the Christmas tree. Like, and he's like swiping at it like a game show. And I was like, and I saw this in part from like the porch area.
Yeah.
And I would, and I went outside, and the guy like has the balls to circle back to try to get it again. And so then I'm like, all right, my neighbor's going to have a heart attack or shoot somebody. So I roll out there and I'm like, okay, time to make the Christmas tree. So all of that effort to have like the perfect New England Christmas was almost sabotaged by a guy with a machete, like driving another Toyota Corolla. But like in the end, we have a Christmas tree and it is up and it is beautiful. And nobody got hurt in the process. And
it has a
yes,
minion
there was still
topper.
some discussion about whether or not. Okay.
It has a minion top. Sorry.
It does
All right,
have a
sorry
minion
guys. There's
top.
like such a delay. We're like, and I'm like, I got a major freaking storm going on here. So anyway.
Yeah, you probably are going to lose power. I will say this. I do have a minion topper on my Christmas tree. Just remember, don't be a minion. That is not helpful. That is part of your toxic attachment to work. Put that minion on the top of your Christmas tree and don't let it get stolen.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.